Every night, your body disappears, your world disappears, your thoughts disappear, even the familiar sense of being a particular person disappears. And yet, when you wake up, you say, "I slept well." Who is the I that passed through deep sleep? Ramana Maharshi repeatedly used the three states of waking, dreaming, and deep sleep to point toward the true nature of the self. But his teaching is often misunderstood. Deep sleep is peaceful because the ego is absent, but deep sleep is not self-realization. Understanding the difference can reveal something essential about how self-inquiry actually works. Our experience seems to move continually through three states: waking, dreaming, and deep, dreamless sleep. In the waking state, you experience a body, a world, other people, memories, responsibilities, and problems. You say, "I am awake, I am this person, this is my life." In a dream, another world appears. You may have a different body, a different identity, a completely different situation, and while the dream is happening, it usually feels real. You do not stand inside the dream, constantly reminding yourself that it is only a projection of the mind. You accept the dream world just as readily as you currently accept the waking world. Ramana said there was no fundamental difference between waking and dreaming, except that the dream is shorter and the waking state lasts longer. Both depend on the mind. When the mind becomes active, a world appears. When the mind subsides, that world disappears. Deep sleep is different. There is no dream world and no thoughts. You are not aware of your body, your name, your relationships, your achievements, or your problems. The person you believe yourself to be during the day is completely absent. And yet, you do not conclude that you ceased to exist. When you wake up, you may say, "I slept peacefully," or "I was not aware of anything." But who says this? Ramana pointed out that the ego makes this statement only after it has reappeared in the waking state. During deep sleep, the ego was absent, but existence was not absent. Something continued through waking, dreaming, and sleep. Otherwise, you would experience each morning as the birth of an entirely new being with no connection to the one who fell asleep. Ramana's point was not that the individual mind secretly remained awake and observed deep sleep. The individual mind had subsided. His point was that your fundamental being did not disappear merely because the mind disappeared. The self remained. Deep sleep also reveals something important about happiness. During deep sleep, you possess nothing. No money, no status, no relationships, no spiritual experiences. You are not receiving praise, achieving goals, or satisfying desires. The entire world is absent. Yet deep sleep is usually experienced as peaceful. Ramana said that in deep sleep, you were blissful. What disturbs that peace when you wake up? The ego reappears. Almost immediately, the pure sense of existing becomes mixed with thoughts. I am this body. I have these problems. I need something. I must become something. I am incomplete. The peace was not produced by obtaining an object. It became evident when the restless movement of the mind disappeared. This does not mean you should spend your life sleeping. It means the peace you seek from the world may already belong to your underlying nature. The mind covers it by constantly creating a dissatisfied person who appears to need something else. This leads to an important question. If the ego is absent during deep sleep, why are we not enlightened every night? Because the ego has only temporarily subsided. It has not been consciously seen through. Ramana said the ego rises when you wake from sleep, and the same identity returns, along with the same attachments, fears, and habits. In deep sleep, the mind is inactive, but the ignorance that produces identification has not been destroyed. It remains in a dormant form. This is why mental blankness is not realization. You can experience silence, unconsciousness, trance, or an absence of thought without understanding who you really are. When the mind becomes active again, the old identity reappears. Self-realization is not merely the temporary disappearance of thought. It is the clear recognition that you were never the limited person created by thought. Ramana sometimes compared deep sleep with samadhi. In both, the usual activity of the mind has subsided, but there is a crucial difference. In deep sleep, the mind subsides in ignorance, and there is no clear recognition of the self. In samadhi, the mind subsides in conscious awareness, and in the natural state, or sahaja, awareness of one's true nature is not lost when thoughts, perception, or activity return. This is why Ramana pointed towards something that could be described as deep sleep while fully awake. Not unconsciousness, not dullness, not a blank mind, but the absence of the false personal identity while awareness remains clear. The body can act. Thoughts can appear when needed. The world can continue. But the belief that I am the separate doer of all these actions no longer dominates experience. The waking person does not remain during a dream. The dream person does not remain during deep sleep. The sleeping condition does not remain when waking begins. All three states appear and disappear. So which one are you? If you were only the waking personality, you would cease to exist every time waking ended. If you were the dream personality, you would vanish when the dream ended. And if your true nature were deep sleep, realization would simply mean permanent unconsciousness. Ramana said our real state is beyond waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. It is sometimes called turiya, meaning the fourth. But it should not be imagined as a fourth temporary state that comes after the other three. It is the underlying reality in which all three appear. The self is present when the waking world appears. It is present when the dream world appears. And it remains when both worlds disappear in deep sleep. The states change. The self does not. It can be helpful to call the self the witness of the three states, but this is still only a pointer. Do not imagine a hidden person sitting somewhere inside you, watching the body sleep. A witness who is separate from something being witnessed is still part of duality. The deeper question is, what is present before the division between an observer and an observed world appears? Before the thought, I am this person, arises, there is already the simple fact of being. You do not need a thought to establish that you exist. Every thought, including the thought I, appears only because you are already present. Ramana did not discuss the three states merely to create a philosophy about consciousness. He used them to turn attention toward the source of the ego. When you wake in the morning, notice what happens. For a brief moment, there may simply be being. Then, the personal identity begins assembling itself. Your name, your body, your plans, your memories, your problems. The thought, I am this person, rises, and the world of that person rises with it. Self-inquiry asks you to investigate this rising I. To whom do these thoughts appear? Who says, I woke up? Who claims the body? Who carries yesterday into today? Do not answer these questions intellectually. Turn attention toward the felt sense of I itself. The purpose is not to replace one thought with a better spiritual thought. It is to trace the ego back toward the source from which it arises. Some seekers try to make the waking mind resemble deep sleep. They suppress thoughts. They withdraw from experience. They try to remain in a blank or passive state. But the goal is not to recreate unconscious sleep while the body is awake. The goal is to recognize the self clearly, even while life continues. Instead of trying to remove every thought, ask, "To whom has this thought appeared?" Instead of fighting the waking world, investigate the one who claims to be living inside it. Instead of searching for a special fourth experience, notice the awareness in which every experience is already appearing. The self is not absent now. It is simply overlooked because attention is absorbed in the person, the body, and the world. Deep sleep gives us a clue. You can exist without your usual identity. You can exist without thinking about yourself. You can exist without possessing or controlling a world. But deep sleep does not complete the inquiry, because this truth is not consciously recognized there. Self-inquiry brings the investigation into the waking state. Can the ego subside while awareness remains clear? Can thoughts and actions continue without creating a separate doer? Can you recognize the underlying being that was present before this morning's first thought appeared? Ramana's teaching is not that you become the self. You are already the self. The waking person appears, the dream person appears, the sleeping state appears, and all three disappear. What you truly are never comes and goes with them. The question is not, what happened to me in deep sleep? The deeper question is, who am I now before I identify myself with the one who woke up? Remain with that question, not as a mental puzzle, not as a mantra, but as a direct turning toward the source of the one who says, I. And if you are wondering whether this investigation requires a living spiritual teacher, watch my video, Does Self-Inquiry Work Without a Guru? You will find the link in the description.